I, Isabel Moore, 61 years old, have lived like a faint shadow in this city for more than 10 years, a nameless, voiceless shadow, knowing only how to bow my head and keep going. By day, I work as a maid in apartments that stay lit all night. I scrub toilets for women whose hands are soft as velvet, wipe the dust from paintings they bought with their husband's money, then bend down to pick up each strand of their fallen hair that smells better than my whole life. At night, I clean offices. The broom is longer than my body, heavy and cold, but I still sweep. My hands bleed, my heels crack inside worn-out shoes, yet I don't stop. Every time exhaustion makes me dizzy, I whisper to myself. Hold on, Isabel. Some nights, when my shift ends around 2 in the morning, I pass by a clothing store. In the display window, a brown wool coat hangs quietly. The sale tag reads $90. I stand there for a long while. Then I laugh to myself. No, Isabel. Don't be foolish. A warm coat won't save your son's life. I turn away, the cold wind cutting through my neck like needles. But I don't shiver, I just clench my fists tighter and remind myself. $90, almost half a month of food. How much more until I can buy Daniel his car? My meals are no different from those of a beggar. White rice soaked in boiled vegetable water, sometimes a few dry beans from the church charity meal. I eat slowly, forcing down each bite as if swallowing my whole life of poverty. Some days, when the salt runs out, all I have left is warm water. I laugh to myself, my mouth salty with tears. It's okay, Isabel. Your son will never have to eat like this. My body has withered, my hands are dry and cracked, old calluses pressing over new ones. I no longer look in the mirror, the face there is too unfamiliar, like a woman whose joy has been carved away by life. When I get home, I open the old tin box hidden under my bed. Each time I slip a few bills inside, I whisper as if praying. One day, Isabel, you'll see Daniel driving a luxury car around the city. People will say, Mrs. Isabel's son is so successful. For 10 years, that box has grown heavier. But the dream has never changed. I want him to be respected, even if it costs me my old age. Someone once asked, who do you live for? I smiled and whispered. For Daniel. Only him. As for me, I don't need anything anymore. Just a little more, Isabel. As long as your son is happy, every pound is worth it. And so I sleep again, with the only dream I have left, a dream of a shining car, and a smile I once thought would be the reward for my entire life. People call me crazy. Your son has a wife now. Why do you still worry? They don't understand. To me, a mother's love is the only thing left after everything else is gone. I don't need gratitude, only to see my son hold his head high in this world. Daniel called to remind me, Mom, it's time. You promised to buy me the car. Give me the money so I can pick it up. Before I could say anything, the call ended. He must have been busy, probably had something urgent to do. That evening, my son walked in crisp white shirt, neatly combed hair, shoes shining like mirrors. The money, give it to me, I'm in a hurry. I handed him the box, my voice trembling. My son, I know it's not much, but I only wish for you to walk through life without bowing your head. Daniel carefully counted every bill. I thought he would be grateful to the mother who had spent years scraping every penny together. A bright smile spread across his face, but then I heard him exclaim. Lucy, with all that your family has given me, they truly deserve this new car. I couldn't believe it. I repeated his words, one by one. What did you say? Who deserves it more? Daniel patted my shoulder gently, speaking softly. You don't understand, Mom. They've given me so much, a job, status, and a wonderful new family. I choked out, and what about me? Don't I deserve something? I've always worked so hard for you, my son. He turned away. His footsteps faded, but they left 1,000 wounds in my heart. He didn't even thank me, didn't hug me the way he used to when he was a child and I brought him gifts. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the empty tin box, the place that once held 10 years of my life. On the table sat an unfinished bowl of charity rice, cold and tasteless, a few crushed beans floating on top. I stared at it for a long time, then laughed. 10 years of eating leftovers, wearing torn clothes, freezing and starving, all to buy my son a sense of pride. And now, that pride belongs to someone else. I laughed through my tears. I had traded everything only to receive a cold, indifferent back. My son, whom I raised for so many years, was probably celebrating with the wonderful family he had just boasted about. When morning came, I opened the door, knelt down, touched the ground. The cold mud clung to my fingers, blood seeping through the cracked skin. I whispered, my voice rough as wind. If this is how God teaches me to let go, then he is cruel indeed. Isabel Moore, the mother who starved herself for years to buy her son a car, died in that very moment. The one who remained was someone else. Silent, cold, and beginning to learn how to exist, when the heart no longer has room for faith. It turns out, pain never truly dies, it only transforms, seeping into every breath like a small flame burning quietly beneath the ashes. A week later, Daniel called. His cheerful voice invited me to the celebration for his new car, so everyone can see how successful your son has become. I wore my patched old dress, the only one still halfway decent. A gray skirt, frayed collar, sleeves sewn back with mismatched thread. A poor old woman, older than her years, skin darkened, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. I told myself, it's okay. I just want to see if the car I spent years saving for is beautiful. When I walked in, the lights were blinding, perfume and laughter filled the air. I saw the car parked right at the entrance, gleaming, and my heart trembled. I didn't know if it was pride or pain. Inside, Daniel stood beside Lucy, my daughter-in-law, and her parents, who had always looked down on me. I found a hidden corner and sat quietly by the wall. No one noticed me. Oh, Mrs. Isabel, you came. Caroline's voice, Lucy's mother, cut like a knife. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on the patches in my dress, then she smirked. How touching true motherly love. Poor but still comes to celebrate her son. I pressed my lips together, lowered my head, my heart pounding wildly. Daniel just stood there, forcing a smile, saying nothing. They raised their glasses, took photos, laughed loudly. I sat in silence, watching my son put his arm around his wife, kiss her forehead amid the cheers. In that moment, I realized I was completely unnecessary, like a ghost sitting in the middle of a dazzling party. When they brought out the camera to take commemorative photos, Lucy called to me, Mother Isabel, come take a picture with the car for fun. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold as steel. Looking at the photo, I wished time would stop, so I wouldn't have to see the truth that I was nothing more than a faint background in their glamorous car receiving picture. That night, they posted the photo on social media. In the frame, Lucy beamed, Caroline smiled brightly, and Daniel stood in the middle tall, proud. And me? My face was blurred like someone from the car dealership sent there to clean the car if it got dirty. The light was too bright, the angle too distant, or maybe they edited it on purpose. I couldn't tell. Below the photo, hundreds of comments praised, what a beautiful family, Daniel truly deserves to be Man of the Year, Lucy's family is truly blessed. No one mentioned me. When I brought home a bag of leftovers to my boarding house, the neighbor shoved her phone toward me. Isabel, look, your son's on the internet. He even bought a car for his mother-in-law, such a dutiful son. I glanced at it, handed it back, and simply replied, yes, he's a dutiful son. But not to me, I reminded myself. A few days later, Lucy hosted a small dinner at her home. I was invited again. Maybe they wanted to mock me. I brought along a cheap basket of fruit. When I stepped inside, Caroline was chatting with her friends, her voice loud and lively. The camera at that party was strange, it captured everyone clearly except Mrs. Isabel. Maybe the camera isn't used to taking pictures of poor people. Laughter burst out, spreading across the table. I froze, my face burning. My lips trembled, wanting to say something, but my throat was tight. Daniel sat there, still holding his wine glass, only bowing his head slightly. No defense, no words. They only kept me there as a prop to prove that Daniel was still a devoted son. That night, I opened the photo on my phone again, zoomed in, and whispered. One day, people will remember who it was that was blurred out of that picture. From deep within my heart, something began to stir, a faint pounding, like a drumroll announcing an approaching storm. People say the greatest pain isn't rejection, it's being forgotten. I didn't believe that until I saw the new photo Daniel posted online. As usual, I was doing laundry for a neighbor, my hands smelling of bleach, when my phone vibrated. On the screen appeared a photo, Daniel, Lucy, and her whole family, all smiling brightly by the lakeside. Behind them was the car, my car. I stopped what I was doing and stared at the screen. They sat on a picnic blanket, eating pastries, drinking wine, sunlight shining on every face except mine. I wasn't there, not a word, not a memory. The caption Daniel wrote cut like a knife. Family, the strongest and most loving support. I read it again and again. Family. Those two words chilled my heart. I set the phone down, but my eyes stayed fixed on it. Below were hundreds of comments. So beautiful, Daniel, what a wonderful son-in-law Lucy has. Blessed mother-in-law, having such a dutiful son. Daniel is amazing, taking such good care of his wife's family. No one knew I was his real mother. No one remembered that the person who bought that car, who saved every drop of sweat to make this day possible, was me, the woman they never once acknowledged. My lips trembled in a smile, but tears fell. That smile, if seen in a mirror, would look like a long crack across a stone face. I sat by the old table, listening to the rain fall, feeling my heart slow like a clock running out of batteries. I looked up at the corner of the wall, where an old photo still hung. Now, the son in that photo felt like a stranger. I gently touched it and asked, Daniel, do you still remember your mother? Groups of people passed by, chatting and laughing. They mentioned Daniel. Daniel's such a devoted son, always taking care of his wife's family. A few days later, Daniel came, Lucy with him. I heard the car stop in front of the house, the sound of high heels clicking on the cement floor. I ran out, my heart pounding. Daniel! I called, my voice trembling. He turned, smiling politely, no different from a neighbor. Lucy held a box and handed it to me. Mother, we brought some pastries. I heard you like these. Eat them and stay healthy, so you can keep working to help us buy a new house, okay? Daniel said, why did you say that? Of course, Mom will help us, and they both laughed. I held the box, my hands shaking. Thank you, my dears. Then silence. No one asked how I was living, what I ate, or if I was sick. They just looked around the house, Lucy's eyes showing a flicker of discomfort, as if assessing how much the place was worth. I'm busy, Daniel said, glancing at his watch. Take care of yourself, Mom. I nodded. Inside, a question echoed that I didn't dare speak aloud. Did you ever truly want to care for me? Or do you just see me as a wallet to draw from to spend on the people you call family? They left. The car sped off, tires grinding against the wet road. I opened the pastry box. The sweet scent of butter filled the room, but I couldn't taste anything. I took a bite and choked. Turns out, someone else's sweetness can sometimes be your bitterness. In the following days, I began to see new photos. Every time Daniel posted one, a part of me died again. A picture of him taking his mother-in-law to a spa, shot in a luxurious room, captioned, "Thank you, Mom, for your love and for giving me such a wonderful wife like Lucy." A photo of the whole family on vacation, glasses raised together, captioned, "My family." Each photo felt like a silent obituary for me, the biological mother erased from his life without needing a death certificate. At the end of the month, the moon peeked through the clouds, shining on the damp house. I sat by the window, holding my old phone. On the screen, Daniel was hugging his mother-in-law, thousands of compliments below. I smiled faintly and whispered, "Enjoy it while you can, Daniel. Because every sin will eventually come to light." I will never forget that night, the night the sound of rain turned into 1,000 knives, slicing my soul apart. It had been raining since the afternoon, heavy, thick as mud. I was mopping the damp floor when the phone rang. It was Daniel, his voice excited, making my heart race. "Mom, we're on a picnic in the Redwood Hills area. There's a surprise for you. I'll send a car to pick you up." I froze. A surprise? How long had it been since my son spoke to me in that tone? I sank into the chair, tears flowing before I could stop them. My heart leapt. Maybe, after everything, there was still some love left in him. I hurried to change into my cleanest clothes, a faded floral dress, wrapped an old wool scarf around my neck. The rain kept pouring down like vengeance, but my heart was strangely light. The car arrived. I got in. The driver said I was the only one being picked up, because they wanted to keep the surprise until the very end. The winding road led up the hill, dark olive trees on both sides, the wind howling through every leaf. I began to feel cold but consoled myself, maybe my son just wants to surprise me. When the car stopped, the scene before me was both strange and sad. Daniel's car, the one I had spent my entire life saving to buy for him, was tilted on the roadside, the front dented, smoke rising faintly. Daniel, Lucy, and Caroline and her husband were standing together not far away, their faces pale under the rain. I stepped out, my voice trembling. "What happened? Daniel, are you hurt?" He turned around, his eyes lit with brief relief, then went dim. Lucy rushed to me, grabbing my hand, her voice shaking. "Mother, calm down, it's just a small problem, don't be scared." Caroline stood behind her, clutching her chest, gasping, her hair matted by the rain. At her feet lay a motionless figure, a black coat soaked through. I froze, my feet rooted in the mud. My God, that person, are they still alive? No one answered. Only thunder tore across the sky. I trembled. Daniel stepped forward, put a hand on my shoulder, his voice hoarse. "Mother. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do." Then Caroline cut in, her tone steady and cold. "We just need a small favor, Isabel. Without you, my family will lose everything." I looked at her, confused. "A favor, what do you mean?" Lucy stepped in, tears streaming down her face. "Mother, it was an accident, just an accident." Mother Caroline was driving, but she had a little wine. "If we call the police, everything will turn into a disaster." I choked. "So what do you want me to do?" Daniel lowered his head, not meeting my eyes. His voice was rough, trembling. "Mother, if you say you were the driver, everything will be fine. They'll believe you lost control because you're old, poor, and not used to luxury cars. Please, Mom, help me just this once. I promise, I'll never forget it." I went numb. Rain slapped my face, cold as stone, washing away tears that hadn't yet fallen. I looked at my son, the boy for whom I had eaten charity rice, worked as a maid, slept on sidewalks just to buy him that car. Now he stood before me, asking me to become a criminal for someone else. I began to shake, with anger, fear, and pain. "Daniel, what are you saying? How could I drive? I don't even know how to turn on the car lights." Caroline interrupted, her voice icy. "You don't have to actually drive, just say you did. The police will be here soon, Isabel. If you love your son, you know what you should do." Lucy, she was crying, but there was something fake in her eyes, as if she were waiting for me to nod. Daniel kept his head down, avoiding my gaze. I looked up at the dark sky, asking myself, God, is this the surprise my son was talking about? Then, like a sleepwalker, I found myself standing near the car, my trembling hand touching the steering wheel. That cold metal had once been my pride, now it was stained with blood. In my mind, images flashed, 10 years of washing dishes, scrubbing floors, meals of rice and boiled vegetables, and Daniel's smile when he got the car keys. I suddenly understood, I had been deceived from the very first minute. They hadn't called me to celebrate. They had called me to bury me with their guilt. The wail of police sirens echoed in the distance. Caroline made a signal. Lucy gripped my hand tightly. Mother, please, for Daniel. For Daniel. Those two words were the final knife, but this time I didn't nod. I stepped back, my heart pounding, my body cold as if I'd fallen into an abyss. No. No, I won't do it, I blurted out, my voice breaking. I didn't drive. I've never even touched the leather seats in your car. Don't force me. The headlights shone on Caroline's face, pale white like a mask. She stepped forward, speaking quietly but sharply. Isabel, calm down. This is the only way to save Daniel. If you refuse, the boy will be dragged down too. Think of your son. I won't. I won't do it. I shook my head over and over, tears mixing with the rain. Don't joke like that, someone is dead, I can't take the blame. I kept backing away, slipping in the mud, my hands shaking violently. I looked at Daniel, pleading. Say something, Daniel, I can't do this. Don't you believe your mother is innocent? He stood frozen, fists clenched. His face was pale, his eyes darting in panic. For a moment, I thought I saw fear in his eyes, fear of scandal, fear of losing his reputation, fear of his wife, fear of the world. Then suddenly, he rushed toward me. Enough, he shouted, his voice breaking in the rain. He grabbed my shoulders, shaking me hard. Mom! You have to do it, he yelled, his breath ragged. You don't understand. If you don't, my in-laws are finished. You just need to stay quiet, a few years and it'll be over, don't you see? Lucy ran up, her voice panicked but cold. Daniel! Don't hurt her. Calm down. Let me talk. Then she knelt beside me, pretending to be worried. Mother, please. You just have to say you were driving. Then we'll say you panicked, that you weren't in your right mind. Everyone will believe it. No one will blame you, Mother. Caroline stood behind me, whispering like a venomous snake. We'll tell the police only you, Daniel, and Lucy were in the car. No one else. I'll disappear before they arrive. If you scream, I swear, it'll be worse for Daniel. I lifted my trembling head, looking around. The car lay crooked on the roadside, the hood crushed, glass shattered, blood smeared red across the hood, the headlights reflecting it in a ghastly glow. I covered my face and cried. You want to destroy me? I spent my whole life for you, for my son, and now you want to kill me? No one answered. Only Daniel's voice whispered hoarsely, as if suffocating. Mother, please, there's no other way, I can't let Lucy's mom go to jail, they'll lose everything, and I'll lose my status, my career. Lucy turned to Caroline, speaking softly. We have to fix the scene, leave no trace. Mother, go now, I'll take care of this part. Caroline nodded, adjusted her raincoat, and disappeared into the darkness. Then Lucy turned to me, gripping my shoulders, whispering. The police are almost here. You must stay quiet. They'll believe you went into shock, lost your mind. But if you open your mouth, she sneered, everything will collapse, and you'll only end up worse. I looked at my son. Daniel wouldn't look back. Police lights flashed in the distance. Sirens cut through the rain. Lucy squeezed my hand tight, painfully tight. Mother, remember, it was only you, me, and Daniel here. No one else. Understand? I wanted to scream. To tell the truth. But when I looked into my son's eyes, the same boy who once lay in my arms as a newborn, now as cold as a stranger, every word caught in my throat. The officers came closer, flashlights sweeping across my face. I trembled, my lips moving. I was driving. I lost control. They wrote it down. Lucy held my shoulder, pretending to shake. Daniel bowed his head, silent. When they handcuffed me, I finally understood that a surprise gift my son had promised was the life sentence that would bury me alive. As they led me away, I turned back. Daniel still stood there, holding his wife, never looking at me once. Inside me, whatever was called a mother's love died completely. That night, it rained for a long time, and in that rain, a mother was erased from the world by the very hands of her own son. The iron door closed behind me. The dry, cold click of the lock echoed, like the sound of a coffin lid sealing my life away. The cell was damp, like a tomb with its lid still ajar. The smell of mold, urine, and unwashed bodies mixed together, thick and suffocating, like a nightmare I couldn't escape. I sat in the corner, my back against the cold wall, staring blankly into the darkness ahead. This is your home now, Isabel. No, it can't be, it's just temporary, only a few months. Daniel will come. Will he? Does he still remember you? I was silent. I no longer had the strength to argue with myself. On the first day, they called me the stupid old woman. Someone asked, why did you drive and hit someone? I laughed dryly, my voice brittle as paper. I'd like to know that too. What was the point of explaining when the truth had already been buried along with my dignity? In my head, only 3 sounds remained: Daniel's laughter, Lucy lowering her head, and Caroline whispering softly. Keep it down, it's just a small matter. A small matter. I closed my eyes and laughed like a madwoman. On the second day, they gave me my first meal: cold rice, a few chunks of fatty meat, tasteless and chilled. I stared at the bowl, then burst into laughter. My son, I used to cook you sour soup and golden fried fish. Now I eat prison food, and where do you eat? In a restaurant? Raising a glass to celebrate your new life, right? The dry rice stuck in my throat. I swallowed and tasted salt, not sure if it was sweat or tears. On the third day, a young inmate threw a piece of leftover bread at me. Eat it, old lady. If you're too kind here, you'll die. I picked it up, smiled, and said softly, thank you. The bread was hard, salty, and fishy, but at least it tasted like existence. Just live, Isabel. No matter how humiliating, you must live. I understood to survive here, I didn't need pride, only will. One day, a guard asked, does anyone visit you? I smiled. Yes, but maybe they're busy. Daniel must be busy. He's young, has work, has Lucy. Or maybe he's afraid. Or ashamed to have a mother like you. I covered my ears. Stop it. But inside my head, my own voice still echoed. He's already forgotten. 3 months. Not a single visitor. Every morning, I'd look up when I heard footsteps in the hall. Maybe today he'll come. Then, when the footsteps passed, I'd lower my head again and laugh bitterly. Stupid again, Isabel. One morning, the guard tossed an envelope onto the table. You've got mail. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were a few sheets of paper and a photograph. The photo: Daniel and Lucy standing on the beach, smiling brightly, seawater splashing at their feet, sunlight all around them. Below it, neat handwriting. Mother, I'm doing very well. Thank you for everything. We plan to sell the old house and buy a new one. Please sign the transfer papers. Don't worry, everything will be fine. There was no, I love you. No, take care of yourself. Not a trace of warmth. Only words like, sell, transfer, fine. I read it over and over, my lips pressed so tight they bled. Fine. Fine, Daniel. Fine means burying your mother alive. I crushed the paper, the rustling sound like a heart breaking. That night, I dreamed again. It was that same rainy night. I stood in the road, headlights flashing across my face, water splashing. Daniel screamed, Mom, you have to confess. Caroline stood behind, smiling, whispering, just a small matter. I turned to Lucy, she only bowed her head. Then slap. The sound echoed again. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, throat tight. A small matter? You've already killed me. I couldn't sleep again. I sat staring at my shadow on the wall. Stop crying. Crying changes nothing. Remember. Live. After that, they made me work harder. They ordered me to scrub toilets, carry water buckets, wash dirty clothes. Some days I was shoved to the ground, my knees bleeding. An old inmate nearby glanced at me and said quietly, Don't let them keep stepping on you. Get up. I smiled, my voice hoarse. I'm used to it. No, Isabel. You're not used to it. You're being forged. That sentence repeated in my head like a hammer striking iron. By the 5th month, I was different. No one dared bully me anymore. I learned to look people straight in the eyes, to use silence that frightened them. A young woman who once threw bread at me now offered an extra scoop of rice. Eat, ma'am. I know you don't deserve this. I nodded, smiling my first smile in months. You see, Isabel. They're afraid of you now. Because you're no longer afraid. I heard many rumors in prison. That the accident had been arranged, that the family was very rich, that the real driver was a blonde woman, drunk. Each word was another blade stabbing the old wound. They think you're dead, Isabel. But you'll show them you're not. I curled under my thin blanket, listening to the rain outside, whispering to myself. I will live. I will make them remember my name. And another voice inside me replied, firm as steel. No, Isabel. You won't just live, you'll return. My eyes were different now, bright, cold, no longer clouded. The day will come, I whispered. The day you walk out not to cry, but to take back justice. Blow by blow. People think prison buries the soul. No. Prison is where I forged mine into steel. And in the sound of the night rain, I heard my heart clearly, no longer soft, but beating steady, heavy, solid, like the hammering that declared. Isabel Moore is not dead. The day I walked out of prison, no one came. Good, Isabel. No one to greet you means no one to drag you back into the old swamp. I didn't return to the old house. That place once echoed with laughter, now only with betrayal. I rented a small room in the outskirts, near a sewing factory, the smell of burnt fabric, chemicals, dampness, and sweat blending into the scent of my new life. I worked from morning until night. My hands hardened, skin cracked and bleeding from bleach. My meals were cold bread and leftover milk. But I felt at peace. Every dollar I earned was real, not charity, not lies. Every night, I wrote in the notebook hidden under my pillow. Day 1, Isabel lived. Day 2, Isabel didn't cry. Day 3, Isabel began to remember. I wrote as if every word could stitch my soul back together. Then one day, Daniel came. He appeared at my door, neatly dressed, shoes shining, still looking every bit the successful man he'd become, and still the son who once begged his mother to take the blame. Mom, he said softly. I froze, still holding the basin of laundry. How did you find me? What do you want? I'm glad you're out. You've suffered enough. Now you just need to rest. I smiled, weary. I've rested long enough. Now it's time to work. He looked around the damp little room, frowning. This place is awful. You should come home. But, actually, I came for something else. I stayed silent, waiting. Lucy and I plan to sell the old house to buy a new one near the city center. The title deed is under your name, so I need your signature. I looked at him for a long time. Again, it's about property. Again, it's about taking advantage. Then I spoke softly, so calm that even I was surprised. All right. Prepare the papers. When the house is sold, I'll send the money back to you. His eyes lit up. He held my hand, smiling gently. I knew it, Mom, you always understand me. I smiled back, but inside, another voice whispered. No, Daniel. This time, I understand in a different way. A few days later, the house was sold. I signed the papers, took the envelope of money, and quietly left. No one knew. No goodbyes. I took a bus to a small town where no one would recognize me. I rented an old room and sought out the only person I thought I could trust, Michael, the former neighborhood policeman from years ago. He was surprised to see me. Isabel? I thought you went far away. I smiled faintly, not yet. I need your help. Help with what? Help me find that night. The night they called an accident. Michael looked at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. All right. But you know this won't be easy. The files are sealed, witnesses replaced, everything erased. I replied, voice steady, I don't need it fast. I just need it right. From that day on, we became silent allies. Michael retrieved the old witness list, asked around the precinct, even reached out to a few people in the traffic department. I still worked during the day, and at night, I quietly went to his house, where we examined documents, notebooks, and old newspaper clippings. Then one evening, Michael said quietly. Someone remembers. They said the intersection camera that night wasn't broken. There's still a temporary backup. I froze. Who was driving? He opened his laptop, replayed the blurry footage, just a few seconds of image. A woman, blonde, wearing a bright ring on her right hand, was turning the steering wheel. I whispered, Lucy. My throat tightened, eyes blurred. Your mother was driving. Your mother killed someone. And you let your mother-in-law take the blame. Michael placed a hand on my shoulder. We can reopen the case, but we'll need more evidence. I took a deep breath. I have a way. I used part of the house money to hire a private investigator, Anthony, an old friend of Michael's. I need you to follow Daniel and his wife's family. Every activity, every transaction, every word. He looked at me, wary. Follow your own son. I smiled faintly. If he still saw me as his mother, he wouldn't have let me go to prison. Over the next few weeks, Anthony sent regular reports. Lucy and Daniel were fighting. She yelled at him, calling him stupid, letting your mother disappear with the money, while Daniel argued, saying, Mom just went somewhere, she'll send it back. Then Lucy moved back to her mother's house. Caroline came to pick her up, her face cold as stone. Once, Anthony sent me photos. Lucy standing in the street, yelling with her hands in the air, Daniel bowing his head, holding his forehead, walking away helplessly. I stared at them for a long, long time. It isn't God judging them. They're judging themselves. I turned to Michael. How many people can verify that the video is real? At least 2, he replied. If we can protect them. I nodded. Then let's begin. This Isabel has already died once. She has nothing left to lose. Michael looked at me, his voice low. You've changed, Isabel. I replied, hoarse but firm. No, Michael. I've just started living for real. That night, I sat at my table and wrote in my notebook. The day Isabel began to reclaim her name. Then I paused, whispering to myself. They think I'm weak. But no, I've just been waiting for the right moment. The beginning of a debt repaid by justice. The day I held the case file in my hands, the thick folder containing everything Michael and I had gathered over months, the video, recorded testimonies, phone records, and the statement of a traffic officer who had been reassigned for speaking the truth. I ran my hand along the paper's edge, feeling its coldness. A small fear still burned faintly in my chest, but beneath it was something stronger, an unbreakable will. We walked into the police headquarters. Michael beside me, silent but resolute. He placed the file on the investigator's desk. The case of Isabel Moore, 3 years ago. We request a review. The young officer looked up at me. You still want to reopen it? You confessed, didn't you? I answered, my voice low, each word heavy as stone. I didn't confess. I was forced. And now, I have proof. The news spread faster than I imagined. The media began digging into the case. Online, people talked about the poor woman wrongfully convicted. Some pitied me, some doubted, some were just curious. I didn't need pity. I needed justice. The trial reopened 2 months later. When I entered the courtroom, the air was thick as fog. Dozens of cameras pointed at me, flashes going off. I heard whispers. That's the old woman who went to prison for her son's mother-in-law, right? Poor thing, betrayed by her own blood. I sat in the witness chair, my hands clenched. My heart beat steadily, neither fast nor slow. I had learned how to control my breath, like a blacksmith taming fire. The courtroom door opened. Daniel walked in, followed by Lucy and Caroline. I looked at them, beings in human form who had lost their souls. Daniel looked thinner, his eyes hollow, while Lucy held her head high with arrogance. Caroline was the same elegant posture, expensive perfume overpowering the air. When the judge asked who was driving that night, the courtroom fell silent. Michael turned on the screen and played the video. The image was blurry, but clear enough to pierce the heart. The car speeding through the intersection, the driver's blonde hair gleaming, a ring flashing on her hand. The courtroom gasped. Lucy turned pale, Caroline gripped her daughter's hand, Daniel closed his eyes. The judge struck the gavel, his voice firm. It is clear this was not Mrs. Isabel Moore. She was wrongfully convicted. The opposing lawyer tried to argue, Your Honor, this could be a lighting distortion. Michael stood up, we have additional witnesses and surveillance logs from the nearby gas station matching the timestamp. And this is a photo of Caroline taking Lucy for a blood alcohol test right after the incident. Documents were passed to the bench. Murmurs filled the room again. Lucy began trembling. She turned to Daniel, whispering something. Daniel only lowered his head, avoiding my gaze. The entire courtroom went silent as the judge read the verdict. His voice rang out, each word like a blade striking stone. Lucy 4 years in prison for concealing evidence and falsely accusing another. Caroline 5 years in prison for the same charges and for directly causing the accident. Daniel 4 years in prison for complicity, assisting in false statements and signing forged documents. A wave of noise rose through the courtroom. Someone shouted. Justice for Isabel. She lost her whole life because of them. Applause mixed with cries of anger, the crowd surging with emotion. Lucy trembled, her once proud blonde hair plastered to her sweaty face. Caroline went pale, her eyes darting, desperate for an escape. Daniel fell to his knees, hands cuffed, tears streaming down his face. Isabel. Mother. Please tell them, please help me get a lighter sentence. I'm scared, I can't stand this. Lucy screamed too, her voice cracking. Isabel. I know I was wrong. It was me who forced Daniel. Tell the court, please, I beg you. You're kind, aren't you? Caroline burst into tears, clutching the bars. Please, don't stay silent. I only did what Lucy told me to. I stood up. Everyone turned to look. The white light from the window fell on my face, no longer the ruined woman of years past, but a soul just risen from the ashes. I kept silent for 10 years to protect all of you, I said, my voice clear and resonant in the thick air, and for those 10 years, every day and every night, I lived with a shame that wasn't mine. Today, justice doesn't need my begging. It only needs the truth. I stepped closer, looking straight at Daniel. You were once your mother's pride. But when you chose deceit instead of standing for what's right, you killed the son I once loved. Daniel bowed his head, sobs breaking from his chest. Lucy collapsed. Caroline shrank into herself, a twisted shadow of what she had been. The judge struck the gavel one last time. The court is adjourned. Everyone stood and applauded. Some cried. Others looked at me with admiration. Michael came forward, gently placing a hand on my shoulder. You've won, Isabel. I smiled, my gaze turned toward the window, where the first light after the storm began to shine. No, Michael. I haven't defeated anyone. I've only conquered my own fear. As they were led away, I watched them. No hatred, no anger, only the calm of someone who had finished burning her past. That's my final gift to you, I said softly, my voice light as wind, the truth. I returned to my room and opened my old notebook. On the last page, I wrote. The day Isabel stood up. The day I was born again. I closed the notebook. Outside, thunder rumbled, but inside me, there was an uncanny peace. Justice doesn't give happiness, it only gives back the right to hold your head high. I no longer remember how long I walked after that day in court. I only know that each step felt lighter, the wind brushed my face, the rain fell but wasn't cold. 3 years in prison, 10 years of endurance, and a lifetime of sacrifice, all for something simple, to live without bowing my head. I didn't return to the boarding room. I took a bus toward the old outskirts and used my savings, compensation, and the money from selling the car to buy a small house. Every morning, I watered the plants, listening to the sound of water dripping on leaves. It felt like washing away every stain of the past. For the first time in years, I truly felt free. One day, Michael came to visit. He was still tall and calm, carrying an old radio. I remember you liked music, he said. I found this at a flea market. I turned it on. The music crackled faintly, but I recognized the melody, Moon River. I laughed. I thought my life had no pink left in it. Michael smiled gently. Pink isn't for the young. It's for those who've learned what gray feels like. I asked, do you ever regret helping me? Michael shook his head. No. Seeing you here, peaceful like this, is enough. I was silent for a while, then said softly, if it weren't for you, I'd still be living in darkness. Thank you not for freeing me from a sentence, but for helping me find myself again. That afternoon, I opened my old notebook, the one that once said, the day Isabel lived, the day Isabel didn't cry. I wrote a new line. The day Isabel smiled. Just 4 words, but it took me nearly half an hour to write them. My hand trembled not from fatigue, but from emotion. I turned on the radio, the singer's voice blended with the wind drifting through the window. In that moment, I closed my eyes. No more images of the courtroom, no more of Daniel's tearful face, no more sound of chains. Only me, the wind, and the scent of blooming bougainvillea. One early morning, I received a letter. No sender's name, only a few handwritten lines. Mother, I'm sorry. I know you'll never forgive me. But I want you to know, I told the police everything and will serve my full sentence. I only hope that when I'm released, I'll be allowed to stand far away and see you. Just to know you're alive will be enough for me. I finished reading, folded it, and didn't cry. I took the letter to the porch, placed it among the bougainvillea. The wind blew, the paper lifted, caught on a branch, and trembled gently in the sunlight. "All right," I whispered, "live, as I'm living, but remember, never bow your head again, not for money, nor for fear." In the days that followed, life passed slowly but peacefully. I rose early, turned on the radio, listened to the news, and brewed tea. In the afternoon, I wrote a few lines in my notebook describing the scent of flowers, the sound of wind, the smiles of those who visited. People in the village began calling me Mrs. Isabel the flower grower. No one mentioned Mrs. Isabel the prisoner anymore. I didn't correct them. The past was still there, but it was no longer a chain. It was a reminder of the worth of freedom. Once, a little neighbor girl asked me, "Grandma, people say if you've been to prison, your life is ruined. Is that true?" I patted her head, smiling. "No, my dear. Some people have to walk through darkness before they learn how to open their hearts." The girl nodded innocently, then ran off. I watched her go, and in the shimmering sunlight, I saw that the future was still there in those who dare to stand up, to begin again, to believe in themselves. At night, I sat on the porch alone. The bougainvillea swayed gently in the breeze, the neighbor's light cast a soft yellow glow. I turned on the radio. What a wonderful world played, slow and tender. I closed my eyes, letting my soul drift with each note. My whole life had finally found its rhythm, not the roar of engines, not the slam of prison doors, but the sound of freedom breathing. I wrote the final line in my journal. I once lived only for my son. Now, I live for myself. And I see dawn in every breath. I closed the notebook and smiled. Outside, the first light of day rose over the horizon. Morning had come not only to the sky, but to my heart. The story of Isabel Moore is a profound engraving of endurance and awakening in a mother's soul. It teaches us that sacrifice, without clarity, can become the very chain that binds us. Blind love made Isabel lose herself, but that same pain gave her strength, taught her to rise and fight for justice. The greatest lesson: never let kindness become an excuse for others to use you. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's when you are strong enough to never bow before anyone again.